imagine getting a tiny scratch from like a piece of wood.
Right. Today, that's, barely a nuisance.
Exactly. But back in the early 19th century, that everyday accident could literally be a death sentence. And that's simply because humanity was just completely oblivious to the microscopic world.
Yeah, looking through the stack of sources you sent us, the historical texts, laboratory diaries, and those biology journals, it is honestly staggering to realize just how defenseless we were against these invisible threats.
So today, welcome to our deep dive into the man who finally dragged those enemies into the light, Louis Pasteur.
Right, born in Dole, France, back in 1822.
And what blew my mind in your notes is that this pioneer of modern microbiology started out as a leather tanner's son, and his primary passion was actually painting portraits.
I know, it sounds like a weird pivot.
Yeah.
But his artistic background actually trained him to observe the physical world with this intense structural precision.
Right, so he wasn't just looking at the surface of things.
Exactly. He was looking at how things were built, And that habit just transferred seamlessly right into science. He started wondering about the actual mechanics of decay.
Yeah.
Like, why does milk actually sour?
Which brings us to the wild beliefs of the time. The prevailing scientific consensus was spontaneous generation.
Yeah, which wasn't just some vague idea. Scientists legitimately argue that life just arose from vital heat or, miasma in non-living matter.
Basically like a bad magic trick where life just pops out of thin air, like maggots just magically manifested in rotting meat.
Right, it was a deeply entrenched worldview. But Pasteur hypothesized that microbes were actually airborne, that they were floating on dust particles and contaminating things from the outside.
Okay, so let's unpack this. How did he actually realize the magic was just microbes? He designed that famous swan neck flask experiment, right?
He did, yeah.
Wait, let me make sure I'm picturing this right based on the lab notes. So he boiled nutrient broth in a glass flask to kill off whatever was already inside.
Right, exactly.
But the neck of the glass was stretched and bent into an S shape.
Yes, and that S-curve is the absolute genius of the design. The flask was left completely open to the ambient air.
Oh, so air could still get in.
Exactly. But the curve physically trapped the dust particles before they could ever reach the broth. So the broth stayed perfectly clear for years.
Wow. And if he snapped the glass neck off?
Well, allowing dust to fall straight in, boom, the broth immediately gets cloudy with microbial growth.
That is amazing. He physically proved the microbes were coming from the external environment?
Yeah, not spontaneously generating from the broth itself. And that single, elegant demonstration just shifted the entire foundation of modern biology.
And what's crazy is his first major application of this wasn't even in medicine.
No, it was industrial. French wine and beer factories were just hemorrhaging money because whole batches kept souring.
Because those wild airborne microbes were dropping into the vats and just fermenting the alcohol improperly. Which means modern food safety essentially started as a corporate bailout for booze. I love how relatable that is.
It really is.
But here's where I got stuck looking at the timeline. If he knew heat killed the microbes in the flask experiment, why wouldn't he just boil the wine to save it? Wouldn't that be safer?
Well, boiling wine destroys its molecular structure.
Oh, right. You'd ruin the flavor.
Exactly. You ruin the flavor profile, evaporate the alcohol, and essentially destroy the product. So Pasteur's breakthrough was finding the precise thermal sweet spot.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, he discovered that heating the liquid to around 50 to 60 degrees Celsius for just a short period didn't fundamentally alter the chemistry of the wine.
But it was hot enough to destroy the specific pathogenic bacteria causing the spoilage.
Exactly. It was a targeted thermal strike, not a scorched earth boil.
Which gave us pasteurization. And, that exact 19th century process is why the food and drinks sitting in your kitchen right now are actually safe to consume.
It's incredible. And once he proved that invisible organisms were souring wine, the next logical leap was just monumental.
Right, the germ theory of disease.
Right. Yeah. He reasoned, if microorganisms can infect and spoil a vat of beer, well, they can probably infect a human body too.
Moving from industrial spoilage straight to human mortality. And the sources detail how this directly led to the push for sterile surgical tools and sanitary hospitals.
It did, yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. How did he take this theory and actually stop a deadly, terrifying disease in its tracks? Because his work on rabies in 1885 is what really stands out.
Oh, absolutely. Rabies was a horrific, guaranteed death sentence back then. And unlike bacteria, viruses were far too small to even be seen through the microscopes of his time.
So he was fighting a literal invisible enemy.
Literally invisible. And to create a vaccine, he knew he had to weaken or attenuate the pathogen. That way the host's immune system could learn to fight it without being totally overwhelmed.
But wait, how do you systematically weaken something you can't even see?
By passing the unseen virus through the nervous systems of live rabbits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he extracted their infected spinal cords and hung them in sterile, dry glass flasks for varying lengths of time.
Oh, so he discovered that the longer the neural tissue dried out, the weaker the virus actually became.
Precisely. Which brings us to the absolute climax in the historical record. The year 1885, and a 9-year-old boy named Joseph Meister.
Right, he'd just been brutally mauled by a rabid dog.
And it presented this agonizing scientific dilemma for Pasteur. I mean, the vaccine had never been tested on humans.
But the boy faced a guaranteed death sentence anyway.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Pasteur took a massive risk. He administered a series of injections over several days.
Starting with the most severely weakened tissue, I assume?
Yes, the driest spinal tissue, and then gradually increasing the viral strength with each subsequent dose.
Training the boy's immune system day by day until it could beat the actual infection.
And it worked. The boy survived. It cemented one of medical history's greatest achievements.
That is just wild. So Pasteur died in 1895, but his discoveries in medicine, vaccines, biotechnology, and food safety are literally still saving lives right now.
He really proved that the smallest invisible things can change human history.
Absolutely. So the next time you pour a glass of milk or brush past a thorny branch without a second thought, remember the artist from Dole. And it leaves you with this. If a 19th century scientist revolutionized the entire trajectory of human history simply by relentlessly questioning why milk goes sour, what ordinary everyday mystery right around you might hold the key to the next massive leap in human knowledge?